This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's PTAC session, Selling to the Government. And we have our special guest, Karen Zalora, helping us out with the Small Business Lessons Learned. So we're really excited to have her join us today. And also, I want to introduce to you our brand new PTAC procurement counselor, Mercy Morrison. Mercy, if you want to turn on your mic and say hello to everyone.
Hi, everybody.
Excellent. So we're onboarding Mercy. You'll all be hearing from her soon as we continue the onboarding process and move on from there. So real excited to have you, Mercy.
Thanks.
If you have any questions during the presentation, please put them in the chat. I'll be monitoring it. Mercy will be monitoring it. And we'll be addressing questions as you go along. It's a smaller group, so feel free to unmute yourself as well and ask a question. So I'm Annabelle Fitzsimmons. I'm the program director for the Monroe County Finger Lakes Procurement Technical Assistance Center. I also serve as our nationwide association, the Association of Procurement Technical Assistance Center, Region 2 Director, which covers New York, New Jersey, and Delaware. A little bit about the Procurement Technical Assistance Program. I know a lot of you are familiar with our program, but we're required to do this at every workshop. So we are a part of the Department of Defense, administered through the Defense Logistics Agency. Our essential and core mission as a PTAC is to serve as a resource for businesses pursuing and performing under government contracts. And just to be clear, we help all businesses, not just small businesses. We work closely with the large government prime contractors, government agencies, the military, of course, and helping them reach and attain their contracting goals, and with our partner organizations such as the Small Business Administration and Manufacturing Extension Partnerships. We are one of 95 PTACs nationwide. If you're on here and you're not in our territory, which is the 9-county Finger Lakes region, we're happy to send you to the PTAC that covers your territory, or you could check the links. I will be sharing these slides, the slide deck, with all participants. So just a quick view of New York State. We're in the purple in terms of the counties that we cover for the Monroe County Finger Lakes PTAC. The Cattaraugus County PTAC covers Buffalo and the Southern Tier. North Country PTAC covers all these green areas. We have a brand new PTAC, well, relatively new, within the past couple months, Ignite U NY PTAC, now covering the central area region of New York and Albany, which we're real excited about. We have 3 other PTACs down in the Southern Tier, and we are hopeful that by the end of the year, every county in New York State will be fully covered. We also have the National Center of American Indian PTACs. We're covered by the Eastern region. Here are all the contacts for the PTACs in New York State, including the BIA service area, Bureau of Indian Affairs. So we'll get that, these are the program managers and directors' names. We'll get you'll have this information for your use. All right, quickly, what do we do? So because of how we're funded, while this is a DoD program, we are required to have a host organization. The host organization for the PTAC here in Rochester is the County of Monroe Industrial Development Agency. So we're able to provide all our services at no cost to you. Our 3 core areas that we cover are training workshops and webinars, government to business matchmakers, and really the bulk of our work is in one-on-one counseling. But we do ask, and every PTAC will request the same, that you complete an application for services so we can report accordingly to the Department of Defense on who we are assisting. And you can find our application at our website, www.monroecountyfingerlakesptac.org, or it's easier just to Google MCFL PTAC. So in terms of the one-on-one counseling, what we're going to be looking for is to first, we'll take an assessment of the business potential to sell to the government. The assistance that we provide is everything basically from soup to nuts. We assist with all kinds of registrations, federal and state, as well as certifications, help you identify subcontracting opportunities. We assist with the solicitation and bid preparation, as well as those working on DoD grants. We're not going to write it for you. We'll review it with you and make sure you have another set of eyes so that you are meeting the requirements of what they're asking. There are those solicitations that may have technical requirements, as well as you may have questions for post-award performance. We also assist in clarifying how to obtain those documents that you may need in terms of planning and manufacturing and tech docs and that sort of thing. And we, if you have problems with certain specialties such as packaging and labeling, you know, we're not the expert on everything, but we certainly work with a lot of different experts in our field, in the Department of Defense arena in particular, that we can work with you and guide you and have you work directly with them. A big thing for you when you're selling to the government is, who do I sell to? How do I reach those people? So, your mic, everybody. I know if you're just joining in, I appreciate everybody that's just joined in and muted their mics. Thank you. That government marketing roadmap, you know, how do you achieve that? And that's one of the big things that we do when we're sitting with you one-on-one. Everybody is so different. So those that may make more sense for you to sell to a large government prime contractor or to a local municipality, others it may be New York State, and so forth. But our most favorite service is our notice of upcoming opportunities that we pay for out of our budget for our clients. A bid match service is what we call it. So we take keywords from you, the client, we put it into the system, and you begin to receive daily email notifications. If you are currently a client, or if you are becoming a client of our PTAC or any other PTAC, that's definitely a service that you want to inquire about. So I wanted to talk a little bit about strategy and kind of do an overview of how we as a PTAC work with you as a small business to achieve these goals of selling to the government. There's a lot to it. I always like to describe it, and I was just talking to Mercy the other day. You know, we have this small box that we stay in. All we do is government contracting. If somebody needs a business plan, we're going to refer you to the SBA, that type of thing. But our box is actually very large. The government contracting arena is large. So just a few statistics here. In fiscal year 2020, probably no surprise due to the pandemic, that agencies spent more on contracting than at any other time over the past 5 years. You're talking almost $700 billion in procurement last year alone, a 43% increase since 4 years since 2016. And the biggest area of growth, again, no surprise, medical services and supplies, R&D and professional services. Technology also grew quite large, and that was by 5.5 billion. I always like to share this slide when I'm talking to small businesses, because a lot of folks have come to me and said, oh, the fix is in, or, you know, how do you make that assessment? Well, if any of you are not familiar yet with the FAR, which stands for the Federal Acquisition Regulations, and by the way, I speak in acronyms, so please stop me at any time and ask a question. We also have an acronyms list on our website. But the Federal Acquisition Regulation, basically that's the contract law that dictates how the government is to do business, okay? So in FAR Part 9, 104-1 under General Standards on how to be determined a responsible and prospective contractor, this is what a contracting officer is looking for from you, the business or industry, as they like to refer to it. So making sure that when you're bidding on a contract that you have the adequate resources and knowledgeable staff and the operational ability to complete the job, complying with the production and delivery schedules, performance record and reputation. So delivery and performance are critical. There are whole systems dedicated to tracking how folks have performed on past contracts. Your legal eligibility, and then access to proper equipment and facilities. So I think years ago when I was speaking with some state university folks in New York about how they look at their contractors, essentially, you know, you're going to start small because you're going to build that trust. And then also they want to see if you can grow appropriately. So for instance, if I have performed on a contract, I just started and I'm a small business and my largest contract was $50,000, which would be great, right? and then I see this contract that's similar in size and scope, they will consider me if it's no more than double the largest contract I've performed under that's similar in size and scope. So they will consider you if you have, for a $1,000 contract, they would consider me for it. So keep that in mind. So if everyone could please continue to mute your mics, I would appreciate it. Thank you. All right, this is an eye chart. When we talk about registrations and certifications, they're extremely necessary to do business with the government, right? Especially registrations. They're not the same though. And a lot of people get confused about that. So that's my point here. In addition to highlight some of those key federal registrations that are mandatory, if anybody wants to do business directly with the federal government, you have to be registered in SAM. And so that's just given. Let me just see who is not muted here. There we go. So that's just one piece. But if I'm a manufacturer or some other type of service business, and I want to do, if you could all please mute yourselves, and I want to do business with, say, a large government prime contractor like a Lockheed Martin and L3 Harris, things of that nature, there may be other registrations that are required before they even talk, such as ITAR. See, we're going to mute Nick, the Greek. Let's see if we can mute him. Oh, there we go. Okay. There we go. So let me go back. Sorry about that. There we go. All right. And New York State also, of course, has their own registrations. But, you sit there and you want to do business with the government. You say, oh, I completed my SAM registration. How come nobody's contacting me? Well, the fact of the matter is that's a mandatory registration to submit a bid to the federal government directly, okay? And it serves multiple purposes. One, you're establishing an electronic funds transfer between you and the federal government. Two, you're doing your, as I call it, your online affidavit. You're acknowledging all the federal acquisition regulations that are contained therein, and you're saying, yes, I am who I say I am. Those are the two main functions, but it doesn't mean that you can be found easily. So there's a whole marketing plan that we're going to sit and help you with, because there are vendor registrations that are also required. And then, of course, there's the certifications portion on the federal, and in our case, of course, the New York State side, that will provide an assist in terms of competitiveness for those in the small business contract arena. So when we're talking about with a client, we're sitting down and we're talking about building a tactical marketing plan as far as selling to the government goes, what we'll do is we're going to research government spending and contract history with you relative to what it is that you're selling, work with you on how to properly communicate with targeted agencies and contractors, encourage you to network at procurement meetings and events, and only bid on opportunities that fit your capabilities. The worst thing you can do is bid on a contract and not deliver. I think I highlighted that earlier, so I want to make sure you don't do that. So who bought what you sold? What are those spending patterns in the government marketplace? How do we get that supplier information? How to gather that appropriately. Who's currently buying and how are they buying? It's critical to understand how they're buying, and that's something we're going to walk you through. Are they on an IDIQ 5-year contract? Are they buying through GSA? Are they using preferred sources? Is the purchasing done centralized or is it decentralized? And then now what? Okay, so you've done this research, but who are you really reaching out to? So we'll work with you on finding those small business contacts and looking at the procurement forecasts to see if what it is that you're selling makes sense to reach out to them. So for instance, if I'm selling these large, what do you call those, air conditioners that go on the roofs of buildings, for instance, and say the agency that you're particularly looking at maybe just purchased them a year ago, well, then, they're not going to buy new ones unless something is extremely wrong with ones that they have. So you're gonna find out, okay, what's their purchasing cycle on this? You're gonna understand your product life cycle and then just move on to the next agency and figure out what the best follow-up date is for that. So we're also going to work with you on marketing your message and preparing that message. So developing a government capabilities statement is key. You're going to use the content within there to build a buyer's page on your website. We strongly recommend you should have a website. You should also have a business plan. If you don't have a business plan, there's SCORE has a great template online. If you need it, let me know. I'll send you the link. And why are you going to need that? Because as you're pursuing government contracts, and you may need a bridge loan at some point, the point that you actually start buying product to complete your awarded contract to the time you may receive your first payment, there may be a month or two lag. And so you may need a bridge loan from a bank. The first thing the bank's going to ask for is your business plan. So make sure you keep that. Plus, a lot of the information in there can be used as boilerplate in some other areas. But when we're building our capability statement, you definitely want it on your website. You want to use all that information and have it in front of you, because basically that's what your agency and prime contractors are asking you when you're going to their vendor registration pages. This is the information. So, with any luck, you could have an intern or someone help complete that. I call that stage, that vendor registration stage, the valley of death, because, it's just a lot of keystrokes. You can use the content for email outreach. You're definitely going to want to convert it into a PDF and attach it to those that you're reaching out to. And then today, believe it or not, is the first day that I'm not wearing a mask in the office because I'm fully vaccinated. Woohoo! And it feels weird every time I walk away. I'm reaching to see if I need my mask. So I say this because I see the future of live events, but even if they're not live, we're still doing webinars, of course, in the near future. You will need those capability statements to share with the folks that are participating, the buyers. So here's the sample capability statement. This one's a little older, but I really like the content that it's asking for. Your core competencies, who you are, what is it that you really do. Stay away from flowery language. Buyers don't like flowery language. You want to be concise and to the point. You want to know your competition and know what it is that you can do better. So you'll put your experience, and then your competitive differentiators is where you're really going to identify yourself to stand out. So the two buzzwords really in government procurement right now are innovation. Innovation is one, and then of course they're going to look for price competition. Obviously, you're in business to make money, not to lose money, so don't ever underbid and think they're going to come back and say, yeah, we'll pay you more. They're going to say, no, why'd you raise your price? So be careful of that, but really know what it is that your service can do for them, that maybe they're incumbent, which we can research, or any past providers or your competition isn't doing. So this competitive differentiators box is very important. And of course, you're going to put in your certifications that you have. Your NAICS codes are extremely important. A lot of people think, okay, I've looked up my NAICS code when years ago when I got started, and that's that. You should always review your NAICS code. They change, number one. Things are a little slower with the slowdown with COVID and the census, but every time we have a census taken, the NAICS codes change. Usually by year, I think this year it's going to be probably year 2 or 3, where you're going to see some revisions. And then again, by year 7 within that decade, you're going to see another revision. And then in the coming year, you'll see the new revisions. So categories change, NAICS codes change. And the fact of the matter is, if you don't have the right NAICS codes, maybe you just didn't think of it, and that's something we really work on, you won't be found, because a lot of people are looking to see if you're performing under certain NAICS codes. Very important there. So we work with you on this. We review your capability statement, making sure that the standards are there and that your message is clear and concise. And then, it's time to educate your buyers. So I know this seems remedial, but I keep bringing it up. Email signature is email and your signature block is really important. Have a professional email. Listen, you don't have to have a fancy, expensive email address.
Depends on how quickly you can sell
Thanks
the
for
car,
joining
though.
us. Can you please mute yourself? I appreciate it. Thank you. So email is really important. It could be, my business name at gmail.com, just not, something silly like mycat74 at gmail.com. Have it professional as much as possible. And then have your signature block in there. If you're reaching out to people for help or, to sell and so forth, don't make it difficult for them to contact you, okay? Put all your information in every replied email as much as you can. Making sure that your website matches your government capabilities and what it is that you're looking to do in the government marketplace, adding a government tab. A lot of people have done that, making it searchable. Why? Well, the fact of the matter is, just like you, probably government buyers are going to Google you, so go to your website, see what it is to do. So it's helpful to have that information on there. And, maybe they make it searchable. So if they're just searching randomly and within a certain area for certain product services, makes codes, you're found. And then the other thing that you want to do when you're talking to buyers or getting ready to reach out to them or starting to reach out to them, it's really important to determine the frequency of contact. You don't want to be invisible to them, but you don't want to, reach out to them more than they're adequately prepared to deal with. A lot of times it's just one person, dealing with folks nationwide in terms of disseminating that information, believe it or not. So to that point, what are some questions that you should be asking? How can I arrange for an appointment to demonstrate? Because don't ever forget, it's all about the ask, and you got to be a good closer. And when you're reaching out, after you've got your capabilities statement, we've worked with you on the email outreach, you've got your targeted folks put together, we got to make sure we're asking the right questions. And so I'm not going to read through every one of these. Like I said, you're going to get this information. And before you reach out to them, there are a few other steps to take that we'll walk you through. Because one of the quickest ways they can blow off a business is they can just say, well, okay, why don't you register in our vendor registration, and then, we'll talk to you later, get in touch with you. Demonstrate to them that you've done your homework, okay? Treat your capability statement as a resume. Make sure you've gone to their website, use their language, understand their mission. Use LinkedIn to see where they're hiring and see where those soft spots are in terms of maybe the products and services that they need or that may be growing. So the strategy matters, and that's really important. I'm going to start moving a little quicker because I want to make sure we get to Karen, but I did want to highlight reading and responding to the solicitation and how to make your life easier. So understanding the rules is critical. Finding out who's buying what you're selling is also critical. Reading and responding to the solicitation, RFP, RFI, or grant, SBIR, STTR are also critical. Okay, so understanding contract terms and conditions. This is your time to perform and perform well. Okay, plan to succeed, know the do's and don'ts. And when we're talking, and contracts come in all forms, shapes, and sizes, but if you're talking a standard federal uniform contract format, it has a table of contents. We're going to work with you on understanding that go, no go strategy, and that's going to be a whole separate presentation that we'll have for you folks. But, really what you want to understand is, what date does it due? What's the performance of work statement? Where can I find it? What's the quantity? And are there any restrictions in terms of being able to view or access drawings? And do I need additional registrations or certifications for that? So if you understand what's in every one of these sections in this uniform contract format, with time, you'll be able to make a decision on go, no go real quick. Okay, can we deliver on time? And can we meet the quantity and delivery terms and services of the statement of work? And always, always read your contract clauses. If you're doing business with the Department of Defense, right now, or if you're looking to do business with the Department of Defense right now, you have to have your cyber score, okay? And people are like, what? What's that cyber score? In the next couple years, it's going to be mandatory on every DoD contract, and I guarantee you that's going to roll out to other federal agencies as well and further. And with what's happened with the pipeline, we're anticipating maybe to see that gets moved up even quicker. That's something that we've been hosting a lot of workshops about. You should reach out to us so we can get you set up and going with that. The key players, this is really an important lesson learned. Contracting officers. The warranted contracting officer is the only person that has the ability to make a change in the contract that you're currently performing under. You may be dealing with a COTAR or CORE, a contracting officer representative, or a contracting officer technical rep, and they may say, especially in construction, this happens a lot. They may say, hey, you know what, you'll go to them and say, these drawings, they're inaccurate, this needs to happen, or this other work, needs to be changed. And they'll say, oh yeah, okay, go ahead. No, not until you have it in writing from the contracting officer, okay? And know that you also have a small business specialist to turn to on each one of these jobs. They're the advocate for small businesses in terms of utilization and serve as a general advisor even after the award. So here's my summary to you. Seek reliable, responsible, and responsive vendors. That's what government agencies and prime contractors are looking for. They're looking for best value, least risk, and mostly innovation. Okay, so make yourself stand out from your competition. And as we always tell our folks, do your research, get registered, certifications if they apply, get that marketing material together. Then it's time to make contact and track your time to determine what this is worth to you. I have some top 10 tips that you guys can read. I'm going to skip right down. Well, no, I'm not. I'm going to read only bid on what you can deliver, number 2. And number 10, if you lose, don't get mad, get educated, get a debrief, okay? And so you can understand what it is that you can do better to perform on the following contract. All right, big news. Sam, if you're in System for Award Management, you've received this message somehow via email, but SAM is retiring as we know it. Beta SAM is going bye-bye. It's all going to sam.gov. And in fact, on Friday, the whole system's going to be down in preparation for May 24th. Okay, so be aware of that. Other things to know, as I mentioned, with cybersecurity, cyber is just one leg of the manufacturing stool. There are other areas to get you prepped and ready to respond to any RFI and RFP that may require drawings and your ability to view them. No limitations on subcontracting. You need to know this, especially when you are a business that has a set aside. I'm a woman-owned small business. They have closed the loophole on pass-throughs. So please know that. But also know that contracts less than $150,000 are exempt limitations on subcontracting. Read your SBA affiliation rules. This has become increasingly important in the folks I've been talking to recently. So I like to put this in here. This determines whether or not you really qualify as a small business if you are an affiliate of another company, or there may be other circumstances that may throw you out of contention for being a small business and qualifying for certain set-asides. We have some upcoming training webinars, June 17th. This is a big one. The Department of Navy has come to the PTAC. They're going to have a whole panel of their small business folks and buyers and talking about how to do business with the Navy. It's going to be an hour-and-a-half webinar presentation. It is currently posted on our website. I encourage you strongly to register for this event. Out of all the, they're going to talk about obviously the Navy and the Marines. And out of all the DoD departments, this one, the Navy's got, they've got a big budget. They all have a big budget, but this one in particular, in terms of renewing the fleet and so forth. And look for shortly, we'll be doing an international traffic and arms registration presentation presented by the folks at the Department of State who actually manage this registration itself, to the Directorate of Trade Controls at the Department of State. So look forward to that. It's a good update. they've got some other areas online for you to work with. Okay, thank you. I'm gonna hold on questions right now unless there's something urgent from someone. I really am excited to turn this over to our guest speaker, and that is Karen Zalora. She's president of Creative Scanning Solutions. And Karen, I really appreciate you joining us today. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Anna, for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Looking forward to hear what you have to say. I know you've got some great stories in the years that you've been doing business with the government. I'll turn it now over to you.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Well, as Anna said, I'm Karen Zalora, and I'm president of Creative Scanning Solutions. We're a small software consulting company in Penfield. So you can go on to the next slide, please. Just a quick overview of our company. We have nearly 30 years experience providing intelligent forms automation solutions. We're certified value-added resellers for Teleform, which reads information off of forms that people fill out. So maybe when you go to your doctor's office and you fill out your patient health history, or if you have any kids in school, when they fill out their answer sheets to all those state exams, those are all read by Teleform. We're also resellers for the Teleform eForm suite, which allows you to take your Teleform form and convert it into an eForm, put it on your website, and collect data that way so people can just type on their computers instead of having to fill things out by hand. We're also resellers for Liquid Office, which is a full eForm workflow solution that allows an organization to build all their business processes, all the routing that forms need, and so forth. So we're both certified sales and support partners for these products. And by value-added reseller, I mean that we also provide services such as form design, training classes, customization by doing some programming to meet a customer's needs if the product doesn't meet them, exactly out of the box. So we don't say, here's your software, go on your merry way. Most of our customers are in healthcare and education, and you can imagine why. They're both, pretty forms heavy. But the government percentage has been going up probably the last 5 years or so, I would say. At the city level, we do a lot of work with New York City's Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, numerous bureaus there. One of them is the World Trade Center Health Registry, where they're tracking the health of all of the first responders on 9/11. And another one has been doing all kinds of COVID surveys for the city. So you can imagine they've been busy with that. At the state level, we've done work with the Department of Education. You may recall when Governor Cuomo came into office, he wanted state test results to be a part of a teacher's evaluation. And there'd been some scandals around the country that teachers and administrators were actually changing student exams, their answer sheets, to make themselves look better. And so we wrote some software to detect if that was happening in New York and licensed that software to the state for a long time. We also do work with various BOCES and their regional information centers, and they're the ones that do the scanning of most of the state tests. We also do work with North Carolina's Department of Health and Mental Hygiene. At the federal level, we've done work with the VA, the CDC, and a recent win with the U.S. Sentencing Commission, which I'll mention more in a bit. We are an SBA certified woman-owned small business. We got our little logo there on the right that they just passed out. We were previously self-certified, but in 2020, as you may know, they changed that process. And we applied for woman-owned small business certification as soon as their beta site became available. And I think beta is the key word because I think we were kind of beta testing their website. We ran into all kinds of issues, and the PTAC, as well as some of the SBA small business people, were really helpful in helping us deal with all those issues we ran into. We have never applied for New York State certification. We looked at it in the past, and the application looked kind of onerous.
Yeah, definitely.
And it sounds like from one of the prior presentations, there's kind of a long lead time on that. So We did look at doing New York City certification now that we're doing so much work with them. If you're not located in one of the 5 boroughs, there's certain criteria you have to meet, and one of those is the amount of revenue from the city. And last year we finally hit that milestone, and I was all set to apply for our company, and I found out that they'd changed the criteria, so we're back to square one on that. Not only do we sell Teleform solutions, but we actually use Teleform to scan paper ballots for professional societies. We conduct board of director and bylaws votes for many different professional societies. And typically they have an annual board of director vote and a periodic bylaws votes when they want to change their bylaws or constitutions. Most of the societies use online voting only, but our proprietary software ensures that those who allow both paper and electronic ballots, only one of those ballot counts, so 1 member, 1 vote. Our company motto is solving the right problem, and we like to say that we take the time to truly understand each customer's unique circumstances so we can present the best solution that meets their needs. The next slide, please. Just a little bit more about Teleform. On the left-hand side, we have an answer sheet that's going to be used this year for the ELA Grade 6 exam. And if you can just press enter, please. On the right-hand side, we see some of the various types of data that Teleform can read off of form. So it can read a zip code that's been hand printed. It can read a barcode. For the state exams, the student ID is barcoded onto the exams so that it can be easily read. It can read machine printed information. It can read checked or shaded bubbles, like that yes or no. We actually looked a few years ago at working with Harlequin Books. They have a monthly order that they send out to their forms, and they just circle the books that they would like, which would have been a nice application for Teleform. I'm not 100% sure if it's still a requirement, but the state regents exams used to require a student to sign their answer sheet. And Teleform allows you to verify that that signature is actually present. There's a reader in Teleform that's kind of the brains of the operation, and that reads all the information off the form that you've designed. And if there's anything it's not sure about, it's held for verification, and that's that verifier that's got the green and yellow kind of in the middle of your screen. And there's also a web capture option that allows you to take something from your phone and submit it into Teleform. So if you were doing a Teleform job application and you wanted to include a picture of yourself, you could take a photo and just include that. Next slide, please. I'm just going to touch really briefly. There's a lot of information here, but Teleform is a comprehensive forms processing solution. You can send out forms and capture them in a variety of different ways. So you can pre-print forms and have, maybe somebody's name and address filled in and email that form out to them. You can fax forms out to people, or you can print them and, just have people fill them out. Likewise, when they're coming back, they can be faxed, they can be scanned, and they can be submitted on the web. It is scalable and robust for high volumes. There's a single user version, then there's a workgroup version, and there's an enterprise version for unlimited users that also has some additional features. And typically Teleform cuts about 95% of the data entry that's had been required to key in data from paper forms. And that allows organizations to take those data entry people and assign them to more productive tasks. Next slide, please. Here's just some ideas on some of the more common applications for intelligent forms automation. Some unusual ones that we've been involved in. We did a form for a small police department in Illinois, and they have to fill out this form every time they have contact with a member of the public, and then they have to submit that information to the state on an annual basis. So we designed the form and also did a custom export to get the data in the right format required by the state. We also work with the New York City Food Bureau, and they use Teleform when their inspectors go out to restaurants or food carts. Next slide, please. So some lessons that we've learned along the way in selling to the government. Anna has stressed registering on SAM.gov, the System for Award Management. And you have to make sure that your SAM registration, your DUNS, your D&B number, and your CAGE code used for military work all link to the correct company name. We actually ran into an issue. We had been incorporated in New Jersey under a different company name, and our SAM registration was still linked to the old company name, even though it had been a long time since we reincorporated. And Anna helped us get that straightened out, because if your information doesn't match what's in SAM, the government's not even going to talk to you. Anna helped me set up a search for prior awards and download detailed information. And this was really helpful for in two ways. One, I could see who had won prior bids for Teleform and Liquid Office. Some of them were competitors, and others were just government contractors who, since they weren't authorized resellers or support partners, had to outsource that to somebody who was. The other thing that Anna's presentation made me think of is we were able to see the NAICS codes that the work was posted on, and where I thought Teleform would fall on NAICS codes and what government purchasing agents thought would be the appropriate NAICS codes did not match at all. And so I had to go back and update our SAM registration to add in all those NAICS codes so that we don't miss out on any solicitations. You can now have SAM set up or run automated searches that you've set up and email you promising contract opportunities, which is great. You know, we set that up and also would do manual searches, and I just couldn't find anything. And it turns out that unfortunately, most IT procurement is now done through the NASA SOUP system instead of SAM, because it costs the agencies less to do it that way. So here's the NASA SOUP website if you do work in the computing area. The bad news is they only add new contractors every 5 years, and they just went through that process before we found out about them. So we're going to have to wait quite a while to apply to be an authorized contractor. The good news is it is possible to partner with an already approved contractor, and we recently had a big win on that. If you are going to apply for SBA certification, maybe you're a brand new company and haven't done that yet, it's really helpful to read the list of documents that are required and have them all scanned and ready to go before you begin the application process. And if your documents don't match what the SBA requires, Google alternate names, which vary state by state. We ran into an issue where the SBA had requested the articles of incorporation, and I couldn't find anything that exactly said that, but I found something that I thought was that and uploaded it and got a notice from the SBA that it wasn't the right document. So I was able to Google and find out that in New York, it's called the Certificate of Incorporation. Easily found that and uploaded it, and that issue was resolved. The SBA now has some digital icons for certified businesses. So I've got on the far right, the woman-owned small business one. We can now put that on our website and any social media sites. So that's nice. Next slide, please. A few more lessons. The Veterans Administration is very approachable. I was able to search their website and find some small business contacts, put together an email blast, and I got replies right away, which was great. One of them said, hey, by the way, you must be deemed procurement ready before the VA will do business with you. Here's the form to fill out. So I filled that out. A lot of the information or a lot of the things was kind of similar to things you had to do for SAM, so it wasn't so hard to do. I sent it back in, and within an hour or two, the purchasing person had emailed back and said, you're approved, you're procurement ready, which was great. Their IT vendor management office also responded and said, hey, once a month, we set up presentations for companies to give a nationwide presentation, and in October, I did a presentation to VA contacts throughout the US, which was really nice. As you know, government work often requires bidding, but you can sometimes avoid the bidding requirement if you accept credit cards. Usually the agency has a limit to what they can buy with a credit card without having to go through the bidding process. We use Square, which has a lot of options for payment. We typically have Square email our customer a secure link with our invoice attached. And on the New York State side, if you can find a New York State contract and beat the price, that customer might be able to avoid the mandatory bidding. Years ago, there was a New York State contract for Teleform, and our prices were much better. So we were able to do a lot of sales to those BOCES and RICs that I mentioned by saying, hey, here's the OGS contract number, here's their price, here's our much better price, and we got the sales. So I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Karen, thank you. You certainly have a lot of experience through your business, and you're really boots on the ground on what it takes to win, stumble, fall, get back up, and be successful. Right? So we're open to questions now for those of you that have questions of Karen or any part of the presentation, and how it relates to maybe what you are doing right now in the current government contracting arena. Karen, can I ask an obvious question?
Sure.
So talk a little bit about the implication of COVID to your business. I know everybody's tired talking about COVID, but you know.
There were some very slow months last year, and it definitely ended up being an off year, but not as horribly bad as it had looked, April, May, June.
That's good.
And it helps having the work with the BOCES and RICs because, they always have to do the state exams, even though I know the state tried to avoid doing some of them this year, but the federal government wouldn't let them. So they
Right.
did do all their contracts for Teleform, which helped a lot.
Oh, that's good. That's really good. Are you guys what are you doing for the private sector? Is that where the hospitals come in, or?
Yes, we do a lot of work with healthcare organizations. U of R Cancer Center has been a very long time customer since the early 90s.
It's excellent. So so you just said how you have a long-term contract. How do you maintain that strong relationship? Is your product evolving as time goes on, or?
It changes all the time, and the vendor, it's actually been a series of vendors for the time that we've been certified resellers, continually makes new releases, and if customers have an annual support contract, they automatically get those releases, and so that's a nice thing that we can offer to customers. We provide first line support for all of our customers, meaning if they have an issue, they call us first, and if we can't resolve it, like it's a bug in the program, then we go and get the vendor involved. And that really helps maintain that close relationship because we're familiar with what their forms are. If it's a RIC, we know they're working with the state test answer sheets, and we know what that involves. And, if it's the cancer center, we know what their clinical trial forms look like and so forth. So that really helps. We also do a newsletter that we send out. We try to do it on a quarterly basis, but it probably ends up being more semi-annual. And that's a nice way to stay in touch with customers too.
That's a great idea. And you bring up a good item, a good point, and that is, I'm sure there's a lot of small businesses saying, okay, well, how do I get my foot in the door? How do I compete with these contracts that may have already been let? And some of those that are on those contracts may be large businesses, right? So you talked a little, what you basically just said was how you bundled, you're offering a bundled service, essentially, not just
Yes.
a product support. And I think that's so critical right now for small businesses to think about. You don't have to do it all, But if you can partner with another small business and offer a bundled package, you become so much more competitive, and can compete with the big guys that are out there. Yes,
Definitely.
absolutely. So, any other questions that we have? I think we're doing good. We still got about 10 minutes, so no. Does anybody want to talk about their experience in the government contracting arena, or any roadblocks or successes that they've had?
Anna, there are some questions in the chat window. In fact, I put one in.
Let's
There's
see what we got
another
here.
one as well.
How come I'm not seeing them?
Well, I sent
Hi,
mine
good
first.
afternoon. My name is Lisette, and I'm still new to all of this, and I'm still just trying to, to see how I can find uh, a buyer, like who's selling what what I have. So, I heard you talk about the searches and having it automated where they send me emails. That sounds really good.
Yeah, where are you located, Lisette?
Brooklyn, New York.
Okay, so the PTAC that covers Brooklyn is LaGuardia Community College PTAC. It's going to be
Right.
the contact information. Have you ever worked with them?
Yeah, I one time I had a meeting with Ortiz.
Okay, Nelson. Yes,
Yeah.
Nelson Ortiz. Yeah, he's great. I would reach out to Nelson. Make sure that you have an active application in with them for services, and then they can get your bid match set up. But I want everybody to realize that the bid match itself is only as good as the search criteria that we get from you, the client. But we work hard together. We look at your websites if you have them and pull in that key material. You still need to then determine internally what's a good strategy for you to take these things in and process whether or not you're going to bid. Okay. So, when you talk to LaGuardia again, when you talk to Nelson, tell them you want to work on a no-go strategy. You're looking to get your bid match set up. Do you have a government capability statement? What's that?
Hello?
Yes.
No, I don't. I'm working on it because I'm still trying to, I guess I should stick to one thing, but I was still maybe open to seeing what the need is, so maybe I can, fill in on that. Or if
So
I should just stick to
that's a tough,
what.
yeah, that's a tough approach. I got to be honest with you.
Okay.
You really want to go where you specialize, where
Okay.
you're going to be most competitive. Start there, and then
Okay.
once you get a foothold, then you can establish yourself in other places.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Anna, I had a question.
Sure.
I love the daily bids that the PTAC
Mm-hmm.
emails me, the leads. And I saw one yesterday that looked great, but it was one of those state ones that you have to register for the state website to get the actual documents to see if it's something. Does the PTAC have any kind of registrations to these, 50 state systems?
No, you have to. They can't break their registration process, unfortunately.
Okay.
We wish we could jailbreak them all. No, but at least we'll make you aware of it, and hopefully give you enough to do a quick registration within there. Was it New York State or some other state?
It was Rhode Island.
Ah, yes, yep. Unfortunately, no. We're not allowed to do that.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. So, in terms of the bid match, we can, search international, national, federal. Defense Logistics Agency is a large buyer in the federal contracting arena and military contracting arena. They're basically the Amazon for the Department of Defense. So they're always buying things. But you know, it's not always to the big guys you need to be looking at. You could, why not Monroe County purchasing or any other county purchasing system to see what they're buying? Yes, there's going to be competition. Yes, you need to understand how they purchase. But there's towns, there's counties, there's municipalities. You could be subcontracting with a large government prime contractor. So there's a lot of different tacks to take. You could be looking at different potential states nearby, but establishing your territory and really understanding who your competition is going to be key. Okay. Let's see, anybody else want to share an experience while we have 4 minutes left on the clock?
I think there were questions on the chat box.
Oh, how come I'm not? Oh, there we go. I'm sorry. Okay. There we go. Are we going to get a copy of the presentation? Yes, of course. Does the PTAC have access to the bids that only appear on state web? Oh, okay. That was Karen's. We get our daily notices from PTAC. Okay, that was yours. Okay. That was the one we talked about, Karen, right? The state one? Does
Yes,
the
it
PTAC
was.
have access? Okay. Any other questions?
Yes, how do you get the PTAC email on the bids?
So that's when you're an active PTAC client, then
Okay,
you sit down with them and you figure out what are your keywords that they want to put in the system, and then you begin to receive those daily email notifications. And I like to think of it as a living document that can be, it should be reviewed, updated, and changed at any appropriate time frame.
okay, thank you.
Same with your SAM registration. You should review it more than once a year. Look at it. And like Karen alluded to, you know, where she found those NAICS codes when she was doing market research. Yeah, because you got to recalibrate your head, and it's hard to think like the government thinks. They think in broader categories in many instances or use different terminology. So you should be reviewing your, when you're doing your market research and you're looking how they're buying, you can gain intelligence that will allow you to update your profile and use it in many different ways to make sure you're found. Karen described.
Okay, thank you.
Well, any other questions? I think we have time for one more and then we can close out. If not, I want to thank everybody. Karen, thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, Anna.
Pleasure hearing your story. And again, for those of you that may have jumped on late, the Monroe County Finger Lakes PTAC has a brand new counselor, Mercy Morrison, and Mercy is being onboarded and will be working with businesses real soon. She's a great addition. Gonna love working with her. There's nothing else. Thank you for joining us. You will be receiving a copy of this presentation. Thanks so much. Bye now.